Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's Driver 61 Pure Pace Masterclass seminar. I'm Daniel Mood. I will represent Daniel Handover today, so don't get confused by the different name. Um, but yeah, we are just Daniel both. So yeah, I'm one of the instructors for Driver 61 for like almost 2 years now. Yeah, and today's topic we will talk a little bit about where is it? There we go. Yeah, settings and how can we get the most out of our uh, hardware and our software, and yeah, to get the best experience um, for for the sessions. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about for feedback settings, what to watch out for, and then pedal setup and configuration, um, view and field of view for the last point as well. Okay, let's get started with force feedback. Yeah, do we need force feedback? Yeah, we want to get since we are lacking like that. Yeah, the seat of the pants feeling in a real car, we kind of have to get the information. Um, we have to extract the most information out of the car as possible with our force feedback settings, so we can feel the curves and yeah, the track smoothness and feel how the car behaves in certain situations. Um, and we definitely want to make sure that we are not clipping. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about clipping later and what it is. Um, yeah, and we ideally want to make real-time judgments on on what's going on with the car based on the force feedback that we're receiving. There's two different kinds of settings. So first, there's like the firmware, that's like your wheel, yeah, and your hardware. Um, yeah, it's global, so it affects everything. Yeah, every sims that you play. You can change like the force feedback strength, for example, on your wheel directly. And there's also like iRacing settings, and for example the sim specific settings. So for iRacing, for other sims, yeah, that you can also change. Um, yeah, but today we'll focus mainly on iRacing. So first things first, yeah, make sure that you have force feedback enabled. Pretty much a no-brainer. And yeah, then there's iRacing doesn't really have too much force feedback settings, so and default settings are already pretty much all you need. So you don't really have to worry too much about changing anything. But yeah, in case you're on direct drive wheels, yeah, there's a mode called linear mode. Could be useful. It basically just makes sure that your force feedback is completely linear. If you uncheck it, for example, if you have like a lower end wheel with not too much force, then you can use the non-linear mode, and it basically just increases the forces a little bit on the lower end. So you have just a little bit force feedback at yeah, just like small steering angles. Yeah, then it will amplify it a little bit more. Um, and then another check, checkbox that's useful is reduce force when parked. Um, it basically just reduces the force when parked, so there's like no weird, strange force feedback issues when you're standing still in the car. It just applies when the car is standing still, so it doesn't like uh, bugs out uh, when you're standing still. Yeah. And then max force, or sometimes there's like strength. You can small tip. You can click on the text max force, and it will change to the strength setting as well. Um, and it basically just shows either just the value, or the value followed by the Newton meters. Yeah, and it's basically just your default force feedback strength. Turn it to the right, and you will increase the force, and turn it to the left, and you will decrease the force. Then wheel force, you don't really have to do anything there. It basically just a limiter. So in case you have, like, for example, a direct drive wheel, then you can set it to the Newton meters that your wheel produces, and then it's basically just a hard cap. So iRacing makes sure that it doesn't output any forces stronger than that. Can you check the Zoom invites? Oh yes. Oh shit. Got like a couple of people still in the waiting room. Yeah, thank you for the message.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I didn't see you in the waiting room. Okay. Let's get back to it. What was previously? Yeah. Okay. Just all good. Whoops. Didn't want to skip. Yeah, wheel force, just set it to your output that your wheel produces, and then just leave it there, and it should be good. Then damping, it basically just increases the friction or something, so it makes the wheel a little bit heavier. You don't really have to use it, just leave it at 0%. You can play around with it a little bit if you want, but yeah, 0% is like usually what you need. And then there's another setting that got added here as well, which isn't on the slide. Definitely need to update that at some point. But there's a smoothing setting as well. The default for that is 15%. It basically is just, it's a little bit misleading. It's not really smoothing. It's basically just a filter to filter out some spikes in the force feedback signal. So it's basically smooths out, yeah, high frequency spikes. Just leave it at the 15%, or maybe try around if you prefer to have it at 0%. But the default of 50% is a good starting point. And yeah, and then the last setting, the min force. It's basically like a constant level that gets applied when there's no force feedback going on. So it's like the minimum. Yeah, like it says, minimum force. So it always applies a little bit of force, even if there's not too much. It was useful for like lower end Logitech wheels, where there's like a little bit of a dead zone in the middle and something and that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can also play around with it. But yeah, usually just leave it at 0% is always a good suggestion. Okay. Then next, yeah, clipping. Clipping is something we always want to avoid, because if we get into the situation where the force feedback signal is clipping, we basically lose all the information. The wheel just outputs maximum force, and we completely lose all information about what the car is doing in the situation. Clipping is basically when the sim tells the wheel to output more than 100%. Yeah, let's say you go around the corner over a bump, yeah, and then momentarily, and while in the middle of the corner, yeah, you can tell if you're clipping when you have like a little bit of little black box where it shows you some stats about the sim. So for example, your frames per second at the top, and then your latency and that kind of stuff. And the most important thing is the bottom bar. So the bar labeled with the F. That's the most important one. It shows you how the strength that's currently output out of the sim. If it's in the green, then that means you're perfect. If it starts to get into the yellow, all the way to the right, yeah, when it starts to get in the yellow, yeah, you're still good. But slowly approaching the clipping point, and if it turns red for a significant amount of time, yeah, like more than half a second or a second, yeah, if it's constantly in the red, then that means you're clipping. So we ideally want to avoid that the F bar is completely in the red. If it's momentarily going into the red, yeah, that's acceptable, but yeah, ideally we want to avoid it. That's clipping. It basically, the sim wants to output more than 100%, but your wheel can only produce 100% of the force. So everything above that, yeah, the forces, everything above 100% gets clipped, and yeah, you lose the information. Yeah, and to avoid it, yeah, you just need to decrease the max force setting. Sure. So a tip that you can do to get like a good starting point for your feedback settings is just do a couple laps, yeah, in your preferred car, on your preferred circuit, and there should be an auto button. Wait, let me go back to the slide before. So in the force feedback window, you can see there's like on the top right, there's like two buttons. One is called auto, and the other one is reset. So if you click reset, it just reverts the force feedback setting. On the left, the grayed out button. It's hard to see here, but yeah, the auto. If you do a couple of laps, then it will appear red, and then you can click it, and then iRacing will automatically calculate like a good value where you don't get into clipping. Hope that makes sense. And the auto setting is also available in one of the iRacing black boxes where you adjust the graphics while driving. So where you can adjust the mirrors, and at the complete bottom, there's like the force feedback strength. So you can adjust the force feedback while driving also. Yeah, so yeah, a little bit about the process again. So first things, make sure that you have the firmware installed. So for your wheel that you're running, for Trustmaster and Logitech and Fanatec or whatever wheel you're using, make sure that's all good there. And another thing, yeah, the wheel rotation. So iRacing has something that's called soft. Should I do it? Don't remember the exact name. Soft
lock.
Soft lock. Yes, soft lock. Yeah, thank you. um, so yeah, if you calibrate your wheel in iRacing, just set it to the maximum rotation that your wheel is able to do. Yeah, and then calibrate your wheel in iRacing, and then iRacing will make sure that that the wheel rotation is correct to the specific car that you're driving. So, for example, yeah, I set my wheel in the firmware, yeah, in the hardware settings. My maximum rotation is, for example, 900 degrees. So I just leave it at the maximum. And then when I calibrate my wheel in iRacing, I just calibrate it to the 900 degrees. And then, for example, if I'm driving like a Formula car or something that only has like I don't know 500 degrees or something, yeah, then iRacing will make sure that the relation is 1-to-1 still, and you only get like 500 degrees. So that's the best way. Otherwise, yeah, if you want like some custom degrees or rotation, then that you can do that obviously as well. But the easiest way is just leave it at the maximum, and iRacing will make sure that everything stays 1-to-1. You can basically check if it's set up correctly while in the car. Yeah, just turn your steering wheel and make sure that it's 1-to-1. So if you turn your steering wheel 360 degrees, then the in-game steering wheel should be 360 degrees as well. If it's not, then you have probably messed up the calibration at some point. Yeah. Yeah, everything else should be self-explanatory. Okay. Again, process. Let's see. Yeah, wheel force. Set to your wheels max output. Yeah, for the lower end wheels, it's not really necessary, but it's mainly for the direct drive wheels with high strength. Yeah, damping, ideally, yeah, set it to 0, and you can play around to increase it a little bit if you want. Min force, yeah, just leave it at 0 as well. Yeah, and then again, you can go on a track, do a couple of laps, and then the top right, a grayed out auto button should appear, and then you can click it, and that should be a good starting point for you. Force feedback strength. Yeah, next thing, pedals. In my opinion, even more more important than the steering wheel itself. Yeah, main thing, make sure that you're comfortable. Yeah, um, make sure that you can rest your foot comfortably on the pedal. Yeah, it's also especially important for like endurance races where you like uh, for up to more than 1 hour in a car. So yeah, it's really important that you're comfortable all the time, and it can also help like with the consistency and precision. Um, yeah, on the right you can see like a little bit of a picture. Um, I would say just make sure that when you fully press the pedals, that your knee is not extended. There should be like a little bit of a bend in your knee. Um, and then yeah, that should be a good starting point for you. Um, for the wheel position, something also a good trick is like if you extend your arms forward and then um, rest your arms on top of the steering wheel, it should be not further than your wrist. Ideally, at the maximum at your wrist, or even a little bit closer, depending on how you like it. Um, that will give you the most amount of range. Okay. Then next up, yeah, core concepts. Yeah, what kinds? What are there for different kinds of pedals? Um, there are like a couple of different sensors, mainly like load cell and potentiometer. Potentiometer are usually in lower end pedals, maybe like a little bit cheaper, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Ideally, we want to use a load cell. It provides a little bit more accuracy and also some reliability. Yeah, the load cell primarily measures the pressure instead of distance. So, and because we as humans are, it's a little bit easier to like memorize how much pressure we are applying with our feet than it is to memorize the distance that we that we're pressing a pedal. Um, that's also like a little bit of a disadvantage of potentiometers because they measure just the distance. Um, it can also work out, but yeah, it's um, load cell are definitely preferred. And also a disadvantage of potentiometer, over time, yeah, they collect a little bit of dust and debris, yeah, dust and that kind of stuff inside of them, and then they get basically like dirty on the inside, and that causes like some signal flickering. So I had it happen to my pedals as well. It was really annoying to constantly clean them. So yeah, load cell is definitely better for that. Then yeah, dead zone. So we need to make sure that the range that we're using the pedal is actually from 0 to 100%. So when we are completely off the pedal, yeah, it should be at 0%. And when we are completely on the throttle, yeah, then we need to make sure that we are also at 100%. Yeah, the step for the pedals pretty similar to the wheel as well. Make sure that you have the correct firmware installed for your specific hardware. Then yeah, and when you make sure that you read the instructions carefully when you're calibrating them in iRacing. And yeah, for the dead zone, um, so um, yeah, when you're calibrating your pedal, just completely get off the pedal, and then you can set the minimum, and then it will set that minimum to 0%. If you can also like press this pedal just a little bit to like apply an additional dead zone to really make sure that when you're off the pedal, it's completely at 0. Yeah, how it says here as well. Okay, and the same thing for the high end dead zone. Yeah, you can just a little bit, not completely maximize it, just lift a little bit, like maybe like 98% of something of your pedal travel, and then click set maximum, and then it will set um, that value that you're holding on the pedal as your maximum 100%. That way you can make sure that you have a little bit of a buffer uh, when you're not completely on the maximum as well. So yeah. So in short, basically make sure that when you're completely off the pedal, then that it's constantly 0 and it's not flickering up and down. And then when you're at full throttle, yeah, make sure that you're constantly at 100% and not like 99% or something. Yeah. Okay, in iRacing, yeah, you don't really have to do too much. Yeah, make sure that you calibrated them in iRacing, how it's on the instructions, and then there's like just one setting for the brakes. If you have a load cell pedal, yeah, just set the force factor to 0. That will give you a linear um, translation to, yeah, it makes the brakes 1-to-1. So you have like a linear increase. If you have like potentiometer based pedals, then I think the default is like 1.6, and then you can play around with it a little bit. It will make the curve a little bit more, yeah, curved. Okay. Yeah. So the most important thing is if you have a load cell, then set the force factor to 0. The dead zone, you can also set the dead zone in iRacing as well. So while you're in the calibration, you can just slightly, um, yeah, just slightly not extend completely full, complete. Sorry. Yeah, similar to the hardware as well. Just lift slightly when you're not calibrating. Okay, it's on the low end right here. So when you're on the low end, just slightly push the pedal and then click OK, and then it should be fine as well. Yeah, common issues that people have is load cell too difficult to push all the way. Yeah, simple fix, just change the load cell configuration to make it a little bit more soft. Yeah, it can also happen to like some cheaper end pedals could be a little bit could be like a little bit too soft as well. So yeah, play around with your pedals a little bit to get like the most comfortable. Ideally, it should be pretty hard, but but not too hard that gets to a point where it's like a constant workout. Yeah, again, you want to be comfortable. Yeah, potentiometers, again, one of the most common defects of potentiometers is they get dirty, and that causes flickering. So if you notice that that you're um, that you're holding your brake pedal at one point, but the input in iRacing is like constantly flickering up and down. Yeah, that's the case where the potentiometer gets dirty. A temporary fix is to like clean the potentiometer with like some contact cleaner or something. But yeah, in my experience, it's just a temporary fix, and it will creep up over time again, where the dust gets into the potentiometers again. So yeah, if you have the ability, then look for some load cell pedals. They provide the most consistency. And then constant input, very regular. Oh yeah, so if you have like when you're completely off the throttle and you notice that the input is still a little bit, then yeah, that's a indication that you have your dead zone dead zones set up wrong. Okay, then high-end dead zone. Yeah, it feels like the slide is a little bit in a wrong spot. So yeah, it's pretty much a similar thing, what I already told you. Okay, then field of view and camera settings. A really important thing to our visuals. Yeah, what is field of view? It's basically it's the line of sight from your eyes and given in degrees, and it's basically like the visual, how much you can see uh, on your monitor. So you can imagine like your monitor is like a window into a different world. It's basically just a window, and how much you can see uh, on your monitor is like yeah, how much degrees is it affects your the field of view. In iRacing, the field of view is measured horizontally, um, and we want to make sure that ideally the field of view should be set up in to be one-to-one. So the monitor is literally a window, and everything, all the proportions are how they should be if you were like had that monitor in the real car and would look through the monitor if it didn't exist. Yeah, the main thing about field of view, it like affects the speed, the sense of speed. A high field of view, yeah, everything feels a little bit like it's moving faster, and if you set it and a lower field of view will feel a little bit more slower. Um, yeah, the best way to maximize the field of view is get the monitor as close to you as possible. That will allow you to set up a little bit of a higher field of view. And yeah, if you can get the biggest monitor that you can, that can also help with the um, with the spatial awareness. Okay. Yeah, if it's again, if the field of view is too large, yeah, then it can feel a little bit unnatural. Yeah, items in the distance will feel further away, smaller, and everything else will feel faster. Whereas a field of view too small, yeah, then you're basically like looking through binoculars upside down, um, and everything feels like too slow, and you can't really see too much. So you have to kind of find a compromise on how much you want to see out of your monitor, especially like on a single monitor. Yeah, it can be a little bit difficult to set up a good field of view because the one-to-one relation will probably be so narrow that that you can't really see too much side to side. Yeah, here, for example, that's uh, in one of the Mazdas on the left, you have like a high field of view. Uh, on the right, you have like a lower field of view. You can see on the left, yeah, the text in the distance, yeah, the trees are pretty small, um, but you can see quite a lot left to right. And when you're driving, everything feels like it's flying past you. While on the right, yeah, you can see into the distance a little bit closer to you, and yeah, everything in the distance is a little bit bigger. But you can see left to right, your field of view narrows, so you can't really see too much left and right. So and also you probably lose a little bit of the dash as well. So you kind of have to find like a compromise that works for you in case you're on a single monitor. If you're on triples, then yeah, uh, a one-to-one relation is probably a good start. Um, yeah, important. Let's say, for example, yeah, you have like your field of view set up correctly on the right, how it should be, but then you notice, okay, I can't see my dash. So you would think, okay, let me decrease the field of view so I can see the dash again. Um, but that's actually not what you want to do. You can do something else. You can change your camera settings. Um, yeah, we want to have the field of view the same, but then everything else we can basically just move the camera around. So if you can't see the dash, yeah, then maybe you want to move the camera a little bit back or a little bit down to make the dash visible again, for example. Um, yeah, and you can also like, for example, use the steering wheel that you see on the screen as a reference point where you can set up where it's like similar in a similar position to your real wheel. And yeah, there's a couple of settings in the iRacing options. It's under driver's view. Yeah, field of view. Again, you want to set it at ideally one-to-one relation. How to get that one-to-one relation? There are like a couple of calculators that you can use. It should be on one of the next slides as well. So, um, nope, sorry. Yeah, then driver height. We can change the height of the driver. It's basically like just shifting the view up and down. You can also do that in the graphics adjustments black box while driving. Um, and we also have like shift horizon. Um, it basically changes like the horizon, yeah, moves the horizon up and down. Um, it's pretty useful to like, um, so you can set up your monitors in such a way that the middle of the monitor ideally should be like a little bit eye height level. And then you can use the shift horizon to set the horizon so it's at eye level. And then we have also like a roll and pitch chassis. It's basically like simulates a little bit like head movement. Um, so when the chassis, so for example, when you're driving to the Daytona Oval, yeah, and you're on the banking, the chassis is like 45 degrees, and then you can set it to either follow the roll and the pitch of the car. So you're constantly, so the horizon moves in the distance, or you can change it where the car rotates on your screen, but the horizon stays horizontal. And there's like also like neck motion again. It's like some, for example, when you go over a bump, yeah, do you want to have the camera just static to the car where it just stays with the car, or do you want like the car to absorb, so the camera to absorb that bump, for example, when the car goes over the bump and it smooths out, yeah, that head movement. And then also there's like rotate with velocity. It's basically just points the camera towards what the car is like doing. So for example, um, if we get a little bit of oversteer, yeah, then the camera will tilt a little bit to the direction of the drift, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and 100%. If you set it all the way to 100%, yeah, then your head is locked with the car and moves in sync with the car. While it's at 0%, yeah, your head is locked to the horizon, and the car just rotates around the screen. Yeah.
I think it's vice versa. I think it's vice versa. When it's 100%, it's dumping it all, like just like suspends it. But when it's zero, at least neck motion, it just like sticks to the car basically. So it's vice versa. I think.
Yeah.
Just like small correction because I've been playing with
Yeah.
it yesterday. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Your setup. Obviously there's like different kinds of setup: single screen, triple screen, VR. You can distance with the screen sign is important, and camera settings as well. Then there's also like the controls overview. The graphics adjustments black box. You can access it via F9, or if you have it bound to a different button, then you can press that button as well. And then you can adjust like some settings there as well. Yeah, and if you're driving in VR, then make sure that you use the recenter HMD button. I think the default is the semicolon. And then it says like virtual mirror is better. Yeah, if you have the graphical power, then you can try to like use the in-game mirrors, but otherwise, yeah, just use the virtual mirror. Okay, that makes sense. So we have the mirror settings and the graphic adjustments. It basically just affects the car mirrors of the car itself. So you can have like there's like different cars. Like some cars have like only one mirror, some cars have two mirrors, some cars have three mirrors, some cars have even four mirrors. Like a rear view mirror and rear view monitor as well. So you can adjust all the settings for all the mirrors separately, the yaw and the pitch. If you just have the virtual mirror, then that whole section with the mirrors is you disregard it. Then virtual mirror field of view. It's just the field of view of the virtual mirror, pretty much self-explanatory. It changes the field of view of your virtual mirror. So set it to the higher field of view. Yeah, you can see more behind you, but again, you lose that sense of speed and that distance as well. So you kind of have to find that compromise: how much you want to see side to side, and how much you want to see into the distance. And then driving field of view, again, that's the same value that is set up in the previous here in the options menu as well. Then shift horizon again, same thing. Driver height again, you can also change the driver height while driving as well. And then at the bottom is the force feedback max force as well, where you can change the strength of your force feedback. And off the right of the force feedback max force is when you're driving, there should be an auto button appearing, a red auto button, and then you can click it as well with your mouse. And then it will also like set the force feedback to a good point where it's not clipping. A little bit about the process on a single screen. Okay, I see that picture is a little bit outdated. But on the top right, yeah, there should be like a button for the monitor setup, and then you can input. It's just a calculator to get you to a good starting point with your field of view, and then you can input your values there. So your width and your height and yeah, your viewing distance, and it will give you a good field of view value where you can start out from. Yeah, so make sure that the center of the that you center the screen. Ideally, get as close as possible to the screen as well, and yeah, measure the width of the screen, and then measure the distance. So the middle of the screen to your eyes. That's your viewing distance, and then you can input that measure data into the iRacing calculator. And yeah, if you're driving on other sims, yeah, that don't have a calculator, you can go to Google. There's like plenty of field of view calculators online as well. Yeah, for example, this is one of them. Yeah. Where to set? Yeah, go into the options on iRacing, and then at the bottom to the graphics tab. And then at the top right, again, it's an outdated picture, but there should be a button where you can get to the field of view calculator. Yeah, in case you want to change the camera position in the car, it's a little bit tricky. Not completely easy, but you need to make sure that you're out of the car, in the replay mode, and then you need to press Control plus F12 at the same time, and yeah, make sure that you choose the cockpit camera in the replay, and then you can adjust the camera settings there as well with, like, I think W, A, S, and D moves the camera around, and then also you can change like the offset values in the camera edit window, the X, Y, and Z axis, and like also like the pitch and the roll and that kind of stuff. Yeah, just a warning, there's like a maximum value that you can't go over, because like iRacing doesn't want you to like set the camera outside of the car, for example. Like you can't drive with the camera on top of the car, or in the chase cam, for example. So yeah, it's limited into the cockpit. There's like you can move it a little bit around, but yeah, not too much. And then when you're happy with the settings, then make sure that you click Save Car. Yeah, and then again, slight warning, there's also a field of view value in the camera. It only affects while you have that camera window open, so it's not the same. Just ignore it. But yeah, don't set your field of view in the camera edit. Triple screen is pretty much similar. Just make sure that when you're clicking the settings in iRacing, that you select the triple monitor mode. A good setting to click as well is the multi-projection, and I think it's SMP. That's just does some some tricks to like fix the distortion. And you also on triple screens, you need to measure the angle that you have between the monitors, and then you can also input it there as well. And I also think like iRacing added an ultra wide support as well. So if you have an ultra wide, then you can also use it in the iRacing calculator and input all the values there as well. Yeah, same thing with the camera settings as well. Yeah, and if you're driving in VR, then it's pretty much good to go. You don't really have to do too much. Yeah, make sure that your headset is working. Start iRacing in your VR headset, and get into a comfortable driving position. And then you just have to press the recenter HMB button, and then you're good to go. So yeah, make sure that you bind a recenter HMB. It's all the way at the bottom of the controls tab. You will find it. Okay, then some final notes. In options, choose auto blip as shift aid for the training session. So the Mazda has like no blip on the downshift. So in case it's like difficult to select the next lower gear while you're braking and turning into the corner, and you can't downshift for some reason, then that's usually due to not blipping the throttle. And what you can do is just choose the auto blip shift aid, and that will help with the downshifts. So you don't really have to think about blipping in throttle. Obviously, if you want to do it yourself, then just disable it and do the blipping yourself. But it's just to help with the downshifts. And after change in screen seat position, remeasure the necessary. In case you like upgrade your setup, then make sure that you also change the settings and remeasure everything. Also, a good idea is to set up some black box controls. So in the options controls, go to the black box controls. There's like next, previous, and select next, previous control. So next, previous black box is just you're cycling through black boxes, and then select next, previous control. You're just scrolling up and down through the various menu items. And then there's also increment, decrement selected control. So you can increase or decrease the selected control as well. For example, you have like, you can bind some buttons to go to the graphics tab. And then you can scroll down to the force feedback and then increase it left and right without clicking with the mouse button or fumbling with the keyboard. And one final thing, play around with the virtual mirror field of view to like give you a good feel on what's going on behind you. Otherwise that's the last slide. And I'll keep it short for some questions. We have some additional time for some questions. So if you guys have some questions, then feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead, or write something in the chat.
Am I right that auto blip is basically rev matching, something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Auto blip is just rev matching.
Okay, because I still have to learn this.
Okay,
I'll study it.
Yeah, the Mazda that we're using, it doesn't have rev matching. So when you downshift, if the revs are not matched, then it doesn't go into the lower gear. So the auto blip is basically just
and it will prevent the blockage of the rear tires.
Exactly.
On the downshift. Basically, when you go from second to first, it's like very often happening. I mean, you can control it. You can even use it to actually turn car a little bit, but I guess it's better. It's better not, because it's dangerous.
It depends on your skill level. Upshift, auto blip is just for the downshift. Upshift is not affected. If you have it on or off, the car will just upshift by itself. It has the throttle cut. Okay, why can I drive faster if not using auto blip and shift manual into my rev match via heel and toe? Yeah, I would say it's just there's not too much of an advantage to like have it on or off the auto blip. So again, it's with the auto blip turned on, yeah, it's the car becomes you don't really have to think about blipping the throttle and the rev matching, so you can just let iRacing do it and it stabilizes the car. On the other hand, if you can turn it off, yeah, and then maybe use that to your advantage, but yeah, if you're not too good with the rev matching, then yeah, you can run into the issue that the car doesn't want to downshift. Hey, does anyone have any more questions?
I have one question about the there's a leak, right? MX5 leak that for the students and whatnot in a Discord. And
Yeah.
And there's like how many people? It's like 200 people already registered, right?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know too much about that. Your best bet will probably to ask in the Discord directly. And
okay.
yeah, but yeah, just register for the league, and then yeah, there will be a slot for you for you for sure. There's like yeah, it shouldn't happen that the session gets too full.
Good.
Okay, yeah. Otherwise,
basically,
yeah.
if you've got if there is a league, basically we are split into various splits based on our time in qualifying. So there is like always 20 or so drivers in one race session, but they are basically divided into equal groups. If that's what you worry about.
No, the league is just one split, but yeah, it doesn't get full, so you don't really have to worry about too much about that. Okay, how strict is the field of view calculation? Can I set a value different from it, one that I feel more comfortable? Yeah, of course. The field of view calculation basically just finds like the mathematically correct field of view that's for your specific setup. So it's like literally a window into iRacing. So it's just every proportion is correctly how it should be. It's I don't really know how to explain it the best, but it's like you have the monitor in front of you when you're sitting in the car, yeah, and you have the monitor in front of you, and then you remove the monitor and put the monitor back. It's like 1-to-1. But obviously, yeah, if you're, for example, on a single screen, yeah, you might want to increase the field of view so you can see a little bit more, or like yeah, just set it. Just use the field of view calculation as a starting point, and then adjust it from there to how you feel like the most comfortable. It basically just affects the scale of the world. Yeah. In your opinion, what's more competitive, using VR or triple screen? Ooh, that's that's a good debate. I personally use VR. I like it more. Yeah, I can still be fast in VR, but yeah, if you see at most of the top guys, yeah, then you just see them all with triple screens. So I would say VR is more a little bit rare on the competitive side, but it's in my opinion, it shouldn't really give you a disadvantage if you're using VR or triple screen. It's like what you prefer and what makes you faster. You can be fast either way. Okay, yeah. Otherwise, I would wrap it up right now. Yeah. Hope you guys found it helpful. Yeah, and then I will. Yeah, hope you guys had also a good week, and hope you still have some. You will have some fun in the group sessions, and yeah, hope you enjoy the Pure Pace Masterclass. And yeah, otherwise, I will see you in the group sessions. And yeah, have a great weekend, and yeah, have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel.